I'm going to share my desktop, and let me know in case you can't see it. I'm assuming it should pop up any second. So good morning, everyone. My name is Jan Scheufen. I work out of the New York office for the Infinity Enabling team. I believe this is the second open bar IPP session. So today, in the second session, we're going to take a look at how to model an organizational hierarchy in the IPP web modeler, and then we're going to use this hierarchy to just create a few very simple process flows that show how you can use different organizations, roles, and all these elements in your organization in a workflow. So these are going to be, human-driven workflows with just a lot of manual tasks. So what's going to happen is that I am using about 10 minutes here to show you how to model these elements, the organizations and roles, and assign users to it. And then I'll need another 15 to 20 minutes to show you the actual runtime of this, how it looks when you're executing processes that are based on that organizational hierarchy. Okay? So what we're going to start with is we're going to go into the IOD portal. That's our administration portal, and this is already my first disclaimer here because we're just really a few short weeks away from releasing a new client portal with different UI. So what you're going to see is more of the administration view that might seem a little overloaded. So bear with me. So from the wiki that describes the open bar training, I hope all of you have seen that we are publishing, for every session, we're publishing not only the contact details like the WebEx, we also publish a link directly to the solution that contains the process models that we're going to talk about. So the solution that I have created is called IPP Open Bar Training, Simple Organizational Modeling right here. And you will find a link on the wiki. It's not yet there. Give me a day or so to publish it. That takes you right into this solution, or you can create clones of this solution for you to play around with and deploy. All that is described in the wiki. What I'm going to start with, as I said, I'm going to take 10 minutes and show you some basic modeling, how to create the organizational hierarchy. And then I have a prepared model here that I can deploy and show you the runtime behavior. So first thing, I'm going to create a new process model in my solution just for demo purposes. And this one is going to be completely empty, so you can see what is needed when you start from scratch. So the demo model on top here has nothing in it except when you look under participants, the administrator role, which is by default always there. And this is the section that we're going to take a look at first under participants. It's pretty straightforward. You can create a number of different elements that are connected. As you can see here, when you right-click on the node participants here, you get the options: create a role, create an organization, or create a conditional performer. Let's go through these. A role is anything that describes the responsibilities of a group of people in an organization. This could be an approver, an accountant, somebody working in sales or at the service desk, all these different groups of people that can play a role in a workflow. You can come up with any arbitrary name for a role and create this right here by clicking on Create Role. This opens a detailed screen where you can change the name of the role. As I said, I could call this sales representative. Always a good idea to leave a description. Even though it seems redundant, but it just serves documentation purposes. And once you have a role defined and the model deployed at runtime, as we will see, you can assign people to it. You can keep creating roles right here under participants and keep doing this, create role. But it gets more interesting when you actually group them together and think about the organizational hierarchy. So you can, for that, we have something called the organization. An organization is an organizational node, so you can create a whole tree structure with it. So an organization could be, as I said, the sales organization. Within the sales organization, there could be another organization. And so on and so forth. So you can create an arbitrary number of sub-organizations to form the hierarchy. And at each level of this tree, you can create roles. So the sales representative that I created here, I'm going to delete it because I'm saying the sales representative is actually a role that should be under the sales organization. You can see the different icons. From my point of view, this is all really straightforward. If you disagree, I mean, speak up, ask me a question. All you do is you work with these organizations and sub-organizations, and within each organizational node in the tree, you can create roles. One thing that we're going to see and talk about is a special type of role that needs to be created at the top level. You can see this right here. It's called Create Conditional Performer. A conditional performer is a placeholder. It means that at design time, you don't know exactly that an activity or a step in your process flow is going to be executed by sales or is going to be executed by a particular person, because that decision is going to be made at runtime. And that's why when I create a conditional performer, you can see that there is a certain type. So I can create conditional performers, placeholders, so to speak, for a user group, an entire organization, or any of the above. So imagine if I create a placeholder for an organization, and I have under sales, let's say I have the sales reps and the sales kings, which is a very special role, and I don't know at runtime if a task is going to be assigned to either the sales reps or the sales kings. Then I can create a conditional performer for this and basically say that at runtime for each process, the decision is going to be made based on a data object, where I can, or I need, I don't want to go into too much detail. Creating data is part of another session here at the Open Bar training, but I'm going to create one. Let's say this is just a primitive text object here that contains, at runtime, contains the name of the sales role which needs to take care of a certain task. Once I have a string-based data object like this one, I can use it in my conditional performer. Hold on, I should probably save it. And reopen. This is simply a refresh issue on my side. Here's the sales assignment. So whatever name is inside this text field in a runtime process, if it's the name of an existing role, and in this case it could be either sales rep or sales king, that's where it's going to be assigned. We'll see this in action in the live demo, where I've created a conditional performer that assigns an item to a user. So it will create a user, it will contain the username. So we've so far talked about creating roles, creating an organizational hierarchy with organizational nodes and subnodes, and within these nodes create further roles. One thing that we need to cover here, just to have it on record, is actually pretty important later on at runtime, is you might end up within, let's say, the sales organization, you might have a sales manager that oversees the sales reps. So a sales manager, you could hold on, getting ahead of myself. Oh, sorry, here it is. I was looking in the wrong place. In the sales department now, there's an interesting section called team lead. So I can say that the sales manager is the leader of all other groups or roles within the sales department. This does not have an effect on the processes per se. It is something that is being used by IPP's so-called business control center, where the team lead role, the sales manager in this case, has a couple of extra views to kind of get an overview of the activities of the other groups. So the sales manager role, being the team lead, can, for example, see how many open items the other people in the sales reps and sales kings, for example, are currently working on. So it's a little bit of a business activity monitoring configuration that you're doing here. The last thing that I want to show you is called departments. Hopefully we have time to take a look at that. You can also see on each organizational node, and I'm keeping the sales organization as an example here, you have a section called departments. And this is a special feature where you could have within the sales department, maybe you have a lot of, maybe you have 500 sales representatives. That's not unusual for an organization, and you want to sub-departmentalize them. So maybe you have sales representatives divided by region. So north, south, east, west, and central are your 5 regions in a country, and you want to departmentalize them. So you can create another runtime data object. It could just be called region, and it could have any value that I just mentioned, and that means that your sales department, if it supports, your sales organization, if it supports departments, you could say that your 500 sales representatives, you know that of all your workflows, the workflow will actually have a data object in them that contains the name of the region, so that a sales representative can be assigned to the East Coast, and he would only be able to see and work on processes that have the label East Coast. So you can actually make runtime departmentalization or of your processes, of your workflows, to handle a large number of workflows and groups. And we're going to see this in action. The way you choose this, just like with the conditional performer, where that is based on data, you would say this organization supports departments, and the actual department at runtime is contained in a data object called region. All right, this was what I wanted to show you and just get in this recording. That's all you need to know how to create organizations, sub-organizations, roles, conditional performers, and how to set up a organization to support departments. Let's look at the prepared model, where I have done this a little bit more elaborately. So you can see I have created a fictional structure. I have an accounting department, I have a call center, and I have a legal department. If I expand all this, you can also see some of the concepts I discussed. In the accounting department, the accountant and accounting managers, when I click on the organization, you can see that the accounting manager is the team lead, and that's why the manager has the red icon. Call center has just one role called call center agent, and so does the legal department. Additionally, I have a conditional performer called assigned accountant, which at runtime contains the name of the user in a field called assigned accountant. So I'm using this, and we call this the sticky pattern. That means that any task in the process design that uses the assigned accountant, it has a username in it. As long as the username is the same, this task will always be assigned to the same person. The same goes for organizations. Last but not least, the legal department, the legal organization uses departments where I have instead of a region, I have decided to use a threshold. So processes at runtime have a threshold 1, 2, 3, and depending on that threshold, a different legal advisor is assigned to the case to work on it. Okay, let's get into the fun part. One thing that I need to show you that you will see is when you create, or to use the organizational structure, when you create a process, let me create a dummy process right here by right-clicking on the model, say create process. The IPP knows which roles or which conditional performers need to work on a certain task by looking at the swim lanes. So we have these swim lanes here. There's a default one. You click on the header of the swim lane, and then you choose which role is going to work on on anything that is contained in the swim lane. So if I say this is a swim lane for the sales representatives, and I put an activity, a manual activity, which is a user task, into this, click on the activity, you will see that automatically IPP tells you this task is performed by sales reps. If I create more swim lanes, which is the icon here on top, so I create 2 more swim lanes. One can be the sales kings, and the other one can be, if I have multiple models, I can even use, let's say, the call center agent. So any activity that I then create in my flow has to be placed into a swim lane so that IPP knows that this is a sequential process flow, and the first activity is handled by sales reps, the second one is going to the sales kings, and the third one is a call center agent. Doesn't make any sense, but that's the basic modeling that you need to learn in order to apply these techniques. I hope this makes all sense to you. What I want to do is, I only have probably just 10 minutes left here. I want to show you how this looks at runtime. So I'm going to delete my demo model and look at the prepared one that I have. Remember, so I had I have an accounting department, a call center, and legal. So I created 3 processes that show you the basic techniques. First of all, the swim lanes that I just showed you, sequential flow. Here is a manual trigger to start an ad hoc process. And that is done by the call center agent. So the call center agent has a link to start a process, and the first task is done by the call center agent to fill out data. Then the process continues to an accountant, and when the accountant is finished, it goes to a manager who can approve it. Sequential flow using some data. So we have 3 sequential activities. Let's look at that at runtime. If I log in to the solution instance that was deployed, and then just to save some time, I'm going to use an admin user that has actually a couple of roles. So I'm a super user. I have assigned myself actually a lot of roles. I'm an accountant manager, and I'm a call center agent. And because I have the call center agent role, I am allowed to start these processes. You can see them here from my model. So if I click on basic swim lanes, in my role as the call center agent, I am now in the first activity called enter data, if you remember the sequential flow. So I can just enter some data here. This is my second disclaimer. For simplicity, I am using a data object that has data that is actually not necessary at this point. You can imagine that these are fields that are handled by an accountant or accountant manager later. So in my role as a call center agent, I don't need to fill this out. So bear with me, the UI is very simple. It shows a lot of stuff that normally you would hide in the UI for this role. So when I move this process forward by clicking on the complete button, now it moves to the activity called process case. And simply because I'm also an accountant, I get this activity. But you will see when I actually put this activity back into the group work basket for accountants, you can see here, here's my single process with a single item for accountants. So roles per se, roles always define a group of people, and because there might be more than one accountant. The accountant role work basket is always meant for multiple people. More than one person can go into this, what we call a work list. You might call it work basket, work list, for this accountant role, and there could be 100 items in here, and this works. Everybody sees these items until one person claims the item by clicking on it and therefore opening it, and then it disappears from the list, and I'm the only person who can currently work on it. So I could put my name in it and say I'm the assigned accountant. Remember, this is used for conditional performer later on, and then continue this workflow, and then it goes to the accountant manager for approval. And I approve it, I don't reassign it, and then the process is done. I have to speed up things quite a bit here. Let's look at departments. One thing I need to show you first is how you actually get people into these roles. So you saw a very simple process. You see how I have, as an administrator, I have a lot of roles. Typically, a user has much less. This is done by going into the so-called administration perspective, and you're looking for the participant management view. So by clicking on administration and participant management, you can see I've created a couple of dummy users here, and I have my organizational hierarchy down here that hopefully you remember from the model, and I can assign people to these roles simply by drag and drop. So I can see I currently have myself, the admin account is an accountant, Peter Parker is an accountant, and I can just assign Selena Kyle also to be an accountant by drag and drop. So I can take names from the top here and drag and drop them down here. So I can see now I have Peter Parker, Selena Kyle. Just if you don't know who Selena Kyle is, the other ones are known names. Selena Kyle is the original Catwoman, for those who are interested. So if I log on as Selena Kyle, I would see the accountant work basket, and I could work as an accountant. Let's open this up so you can see how these things work. The most interesting part here, apart from the drag and drop that I need to show you, is remember the legal department uses, or the legal organization uses departments. So I have created sub-departments under legal called threshold 1, threshold 2, and I can right-click on the legal organization and create another department and call it threshold 3. And then you can see that each threshold has the legal advisor role as a duplicate. So I can assign people to work in the legal organization in the advisor role by drag and drop of the name, but I'm dropping it onto the legal advisor role inside a department, and the department being threshold 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now that we got that covered, the last two processes, and I'm going to run out of time here, so I invite you to just play around with this a little bit. Let's maybe spend 3 more minutes here. I have a sticky pattern where you can see I just took the other process and I enhanced it a little bit, that after the accountant works on the case, it goes to the accountant manager for approval. If the accountant manager decides to reassign it, basically saying there's something wrong with the data, you need to take another look, the task to correct the data goes to the swim lane that says, or that uses the conditional performer called assigned accountant. So the person working on this task, correct case data, is not known at design time. It's only going to be known at runtime, and it's going to be based on whatever is is entered into a text field. And then you can see how the accounting manager and that assigned accountant enter into a loop where basically the manager can assign it to a particular person, the person corrects the data, sends it back for approval, and this can go multiple times until the manager then actually approves it and the process is done. The second workflow here with departments is a similar case where we start again with the call center agent entering the data, and then if the call center agent decides that there is a legal escalation level, so if the escalation level is anything but none, so it could be threshold 1, 2, 3, then it goes to review by a legal advisor first before it goes to the accountant. If there is no legal escalation level, it goes directly to the accountant. So we have an optional activity in the process flow where a task can go to a legal advisor for comments or whatever before it then goes to the accountant. We do have until 8:45, so another 13 minutes, and I do want to really have save some time for Q&A. If you allow me, I'm just going to show you how you can run these two processes, because I think these are very nice patterns that are very usable in any process design. So when I go back to my solution instance, workflow execution perspective, I can start, for example, the sticky pattern process by clicking on this one. I fill it out with some dummy data, forward it to the accountant. The accountant then, for example, would say, oh, I know Peter Parker is the assigned accountant for this case, and then I'm going to continue the process. So now it goes to the manager for approval, and the manager now has the option to see, okay, this is the assigned accountant, okay, do I want to reassign or not? So in this case, the manager decides, no, this is wrong data, look at this, that's not a first name, I'm going to reassign it to Peter Parker in this case. Complete, and now it's gone. Since I assigned it to a particular person and I'm logged in as the Motu user, I do not see it. So I have to go and log in as Peter Parker. And here's that item that was just assigned to me personally. Nobody else can see it because it is actually, you see this, in my personal work list, because the conditional performer is representing an individual user. It's not representing a group of users. That is a different, you saw you can also model this as well, but in this case I decided to go with a particular user. So now I have assigned this item. I'm supposed to correct the data here. When I'm done, I say I've completed my task. Now I can refresh, and now you can see the item is back with the accounting manager for approval. And this is where we enter into the dance of back and forth between the assigned accountant and the manager. I could even put myself in here and say reassign it to me, and then it pops up in my personal work list here to correct the case data. Now it goes back to the accounting manager for approval, and now I say, okay, I have actually corrected the data. I'm not going to reassign it to anybody, and the process is done. Departments, very quickly. same thing. Service desk or the call center enters something, but decides that there is a legal escalation level. If I say escalation level none and I forward the process to the accountant by clicking complete, you can see now we're in the process case step for an accountant. Let's leave this here. Let's start another one. New case comes in, and I'm going to choose escalation level threshold 1 and complete it. Now it's gone. I'm actually working as legal advisor, but for threshold 3. So this is where you see the department. I don't see the task because I am not allowed to work on legal advice for threshold 1. I am assigned to threshold 3. So I actually have to log out here in my other browser. And I have to think real quick. I think Bruce Wayne is working in the legal department. Nope, I'm mistaken. Give me a second. Oh, sorry, Clark Kent. And this basically concludes my demo, where you can see now, right here, Clark Kent, how he is actually assigned to, as a legal advisor, to 2 thresholds, threshold 1 and threshold 2. But in the department called threshold 1 has that item to review the case that I just entered that has a escalation level of threshold 1. Actually, if I change it to threshold 2 and save it, hold on, this should have, okay, you know what, I'm not going to experiment. That's all I wanted to show you. This was pretty cramped. I used 39 minutes of your time, and I only have 6 minutes left. I mean, we can stay on a little bit longer if you want to. I'm going to open the floor for any comments or questions. So anybody think this was straightforward? That, first of all, we covered the modeling part, creating an organization, and somebody is not on mute. That I don't know if you hear this, but if there are questions, if you guys want to talk about it, stay on for 5 minutes. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. We covered a good portion of how to model an organizational hierarchy, create swim lanes, create a process flow, and then we spent some time on running through the examples, what that actually means at runtime, how processes look. If there are no questions, then I think this was maybe easier than I thought.
I have a quick question. In which case could we define multiple pools?
I had a hard time understanding it. In what case do you use vertical, you said?
No, so you show us how to create multiple lanes in one default pool. Is it relevant also, or is it possible to create multiple pools?
In the business process management notation, you can create, it is possible to create multiple pools. By definition, this modeler, as far as I know, right now only has a default pool. So this is something that in the future might come at some point, because we're, we're supporting the BPM notation 2.0, and the notation itself allows to have multiple pools, and the modeler itself right now only has a default pool.
Okay, thank you.
I just have the same question, same question about the pool. What is how we can use different pools? I mean, what is the idea behind? For the lane, we see that it's for different organization, but for pool, I can't see what is the idea.
Well, to be honest, I would have to look it up in my little BPM notation Bible. The pools are used to describe the same thing from a different angle. That's what I remembered. Don't quote me on it. I don't have a good explanation. It's basically you're still in the same. You're describing the same process, but by using a different pool, you can group together swim lanes to describe different parts of the process.
Yes, Robert. One example would be.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Robert.
One example would be different companies. Like because we are approaching this, we want to automate a business process within the company of a certain customer, right? But there can be other people that play a role in the overall business process when we interact, for instance, with additional companies. So those companies typically do not get access to our portal, even though we can open it up. But the interaction with those companies could, of course, be represented in a graphical form. So then we would put this other company in a separate pool, which we might even consider as a black box, and then indicate message flows between the two pools to show in the diagram the interaction between the company that our tool is supporting and whoever we are interacting with. So there's a higher concept of choreographies in BPMN, for which this also would make sense, but currently the modeler does not cover this.
Another question. I have been using IPP on Eclipse, and there is a way to model the organization. Here we have seen only the definition of organizations and roles, but no model has been given. Is there a way to do that, the same thing on the Explorer modeler?
What part are you missing from the Eclipse?
Yeah, there is a way to model the organization, not only definition of the different roles and the organizations.
You mean graphically?
Yeah.
Yeah. Simply because this web modeler is a lot younger than the Eclipse modeler. The way to create the same, and you're creating the same structure, so there is no difference between what you can create in Eclipse or here. The means to create it is via the tree over here and the right clicks, and then creating roles and organizations here, as opposed to drawing arrows. I'm not sure if we have that on the roadmap to support it at some point here. But right now, that's the main difference. But not functionally, just let's say visually, it's a different way of creating the roles and organizations.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
كل واحد الرول وهذه كي ما تقعدش تعمل قناة في كل دعوة تحط الرول نتاعها.
I hear somebody talking, but I don't think these are questions to me, right?
أنا كل ديناميكس طبعا كي شو يقول.
Okay, it sounds like this was all. We're also at the top of the allotted time. Thanks everybody for participating. I saw quite a group of people on the WebEx. I hope you got something out of this. The WebEx and the solution instance for you to play around with or create your own copies are going to be posted within the next 24 hours on the wiki. So go there again and check as soon as that is available. Knock yourself out. All righty. Thanks, everybody, again. I will talk to everybody shortly. Bye-bye.
Thank you.